Businessman's dinner with employee reveals an unexpected transformation that will inspire you. Tom Callahan sat at a corner table in the quaint Italian restaurant, flickering candlelight reflecting his unease as he awaited Maya Chen. He'd prided himself on toughness in his company, weathering numerous storms with a no-excuses mantra. Yet tonight felt different. He'd invited Maya not just as an employee, but as a human being. Accountability was easy when you didn't have to face the messy realities of others' lives. As he adjusted his tie, despite the chill of the winter evening, beads of sweat began to form. The weight of expectations pressed down, and he simply couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking into a minefield. In the past, he'd been quick to dismiss his team's struggles. After all, life was about overcoming adversity, not wallowing in it. But tonight, clenching his fork, he wasn't so certain anymore. When Maya arrived, her radiant smile pierced through his anxiety. Yet an unease settled in his gut. He asked himself, why was he even here? Perhaps it was guilt for overlooking her once again, or maybe fear that he was nurturing a threat to his carefully balanced hierarchy. As they shared plates of fettuccine and stories about family, an unexpected tension coiled within him. Maya spoke with admiration about her late father, who shaped her into a storyteller he had overlooked, one who'd faced the chaos of single parenting while keeping her dreams alive. Tom's mind raced. Why hadn't he seen her potential before? How long had he been blind to the magic that simmered just beneath her professional presence? And then, the tension began to boil over. Tom's age-old fears clawed at him. He was a 30,000-foot view kind of guy, a leader who thrived off of certainty and control. Hearing Maya's voice quaver with excitement about writing made his heart constrict with jealousy. Here was someone with talent capable of eclipsing the stagnant members of his senior team, individuals who had always basked in their stale success. The cracks in the agency's glass tower felt dangerously close to shattering, and Tom knew he had a choice to make: champion her story, or risk losing the loyalty he'd cultivated through fear and hard-nosed guidance. Before the internal pressure exploded, he recognized the need to pivot. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Maya's laughter faded into silence, leaving Tom with his internal conflict. The next day, he decided to spotlight her talent in a campaign he envisioned, but his excitement quickly turned to dread when the boardroom erupted with objections. He felt gripped by the fear that he was losing control, that his agency, and perhaps his identity, was in jeopardy. Uncertainty invaded him, leaving him cold and questioning if ambition and loyalty could coexist. The bitterness hanging in the air twisted around him, suffocating, blurring the line between arrogance and a desire to do good. Navigating the hostility of his senior staff felt like striding into a raging storm. Would defending Maya cost him everything, even the fragile respect he'd managed to maintain? As the night deepened and the crisp air outside turned biting, the real torment began. Could he truly step up for someone he'd so easily overlooked? Tom's resolve teetered at the brink as he prepared to confront his team, leaving readers caught in the web of his unresolved struggle, breath held tight in desperate anticipation. The following morning, Tom Callahan stood before the mirror in his office, the reflection of a man at war with himself. He had never fancied himself a coward, yet the shadows of doubt clawed at him as he arranged his collar with trembling fingers. The meeting wafted in his mind, an impending collision course with a board that thrived on conformity. Their collective disdain for disruption grated against his newfound desire to support Maya. Yet, with every tick of the clock, dread settled like an iron weight in his stomach. As he walked into the boardroom, the temperature seemed to drop, and he caught the glance of his executive team, eyes shooting daggers, skepticism rife in the air. Sitting at the far end was Janet, his longtime ally but fierce gatekeeper of tradition. Her brow furrowed, and Tom felt the unrelenting pressure of her expectations. Should he stand firm and defend the very values he had cherished? Or should he risk their disapproval and embrace the potential for change? "Let's discuss the upcoming campaign," Tom started, trying to mask his anxiety behind a facade of professionalism. The words drew a collective sigh of resignation. The team prepared for the usual presentation about metrics and past successes. But today was different. "I want to spotlight a fresh voice for our next project," he declared, and he felt the air shift instantly. "Maya Chen has an extraordinary talent for storytelling, and I believe her perspective could elevate our campaign in ways we haven't explored yet." An oppressive silence filled the room, suffocating in its intensity. Janet leaned forward, her lips pressed into a tight line. "Tom, are you suggesting we entrust a junior employee to lead a major campaign? The client will never take us seriously." Her words sliced through him like a blade. Tom felt exposed, vulnerable, as if standing naked in front of a storm. But was it the fear of failure that shook him, or an awakening nagging at the back of his mind, insisting that straying from convention might lead to something monumental? He straightened his shoulders, swallowing hard. Maya's experiences make her uniquely qualified. We need to elevate new voices if we want to resonate with today's culture. She represents a fresh outlook that could align us more closely with our target demographic. A murmur of discontent rippled through the room, but he pressed on. This was an inflection point. He was testing not only his authority, but also the fabric of his identity as a leader. Did he want a legacy built on fear and compliance, or one enriched by innovation and empathy? Derek, his chief financial officer, interjected sharply. "What's next, Tom? Are we going to invite the interns to present as well? This is beyond unorthodox. It's reckless." The words had a chilling effect. Tom expected the dissent to cut deep, yet he was surprised by how resolute he felt. "Sometimes to innovate, we need to take risks," he replied, his voice steady with conviction. "Maya has a vision, and we owe it to ourselves to listen. If we don't keep up with the evolution of creativity, we risk becoming obsolete." Despite his invigorated resolve, the tension started to escalate. The air crackled with uncertainty, mirroring his internal struggle. He could feel the split within the room, aligning with his own guilt-laden path. But something deep inside urged him onward. The time had come to face the truth of his leadership, to redefine what it meant for him to embody resilience and courage, not just for himself, but for those who stood to shine alongside him. As dissent simmered at the edges, he grasped onto a flicker of hope. Maya's determination to prove herself might just ignite a transformation not only within himself, but throughout the entire agency. And yet, the dread of possible backlash haunted him, a specter lingering just out of reach. The meeting dragged on, words exchanged like currency. As the minutes slipped into hours, Tom found himself questioning the strength of his resolve. Would embracing this new direction offer liberation or lead to inevitable downfall? He needed to decide quickly. The window for action was closing, and each tick of the clock resonated in his ears. By the time the meeting finally concluded, the atmosphere brimmed with apprehension as Tom stepped into the hallway. His heart raced, and an unsettling thought snagged hold. What awaited him next would require not just courage, but the kind of human vulnerability he had on many occasions dismissed. As he paced the dim corridor, questions erupted within him. Could he truly champion Maya? Would he risk his authority to support a vision so radically different from his own? Emerging from the shadows, ready to redefine the future of his agency, he knew the moment of truth loomed larger than ever. Tom needed clarity, a keystone to bolster his resolve amidst the crashing waves of uncertainty. The usual rhythm of his thoughts, a precise amalgamation of logic and reason, seemed shattered. He found himself wandering to the office kitchenette, seeking something to ground him, A cup of coffee, a moment of solitude, an escape from the silence that clung to the aftermath of the meeting. As he waited for the coffee to brew, his mind ran on a loop, churning through the implications of his bold decision. Could the uproar within the board truly be silenced? Could he dig deeper and embrace the very change he had once relegated to mere thoughts, now manifesting as an urgent necessity? The aroma of fresh coffee filled the air, but it did little to punctuate the fears that loomed larger. Distracted, he leaned against the counter, searching for an anchor. Thoughts of Maya resurfaced, her enthusiasm, the fire that sparked in her eyes when she spoke of ideas too instinctive to align with canned corporate jargon. He knew she was exceptional, but was exceptional enough for him to risk everything he had worked for? The rhythmic drip of the coffee pot broke his contemplation. Just then, Janet entered. Her presence struck him like a fortification, a reminder of the stakes he faced. "Tom," she began, her voice even, but a tremor tinged her words. "Can we talk?" "Of course," he responded, gesturing slightly toward the seating area, a circumspect look crossing his face. They settled in. He felt a subtle shift in her demeanor, a crack in the otherwise polished exterior. "You surprised us today," Janet admitted, the usual sharpness in her gaze now softened by something more vulnerable. "I'm concerned about going against our usual methods. What you suggested, it's risky." "Isn't that the point? I can't help but feel we are becoming obsolete by clinging too tightly to tradition. We might miss the narrative shift happening in our industry if we can't adapt," Tom replied, his voice steady, though uncertainty burrowed beneath the surface. Janet shook her head slightly, as if to dislodge the weight of his words. "But what if it fails, Tom? You'll be the one who took that risk. A risk with consequences beyond our project, affecting your reputation," she countered, her protective instincts kicking in. This time, resentment bubbled under Tom's skin. Why did she view boldness as folly? He looked into her eyes, seeking an explanation, but also searching for common ground. Failing at innovation is better than succeeding in stagnation. We all know it, Janet. The industry demands fresh perspectives, and if I can't position our agency as a leader in this, then I'm failing too. She regarded him closely, measuring the truths etched on his face. He could sense her hesitation transforming. Therein lay the opening to bridge their divides. "I know how hard you have worked to reach where you are," she admitted. "But what if I'm also afraid of your fall? I've seen too many talented leaders lose themselves in the pursuit of change, leading to ruin." Tom took her confession, recognizing her vulnerability as a distraction from his own. The duality of their roles, the mentor and the mentee, the guardian and the disruptor, brought new layers to their discussions. He leaned closer, feeling a new surge of determination. "If we stand firm, Janet, we will protect the old. But what will we lose by doing so? What if we could be the catalyzing force for change, not just for our agency, but for all the voices we've overlooked?" The tension electrified the air between them, but a flicker of understanding sparked in Janet's eyes. She was contemplating a shift. "I've always believed in tradition because it provides stability, but I can see how blind adherence could lead to decay," she murmured, a contemplative edge softening her authoritative stance. As they spoke, Tom felt the layers of his own defensiveness beginning to peel away. Each challenge pushed him to reflect on his core values and the very essence of leadership. In that moment, he was redefining what it meant to be an agent of change, to embrace vulnerability with intention. But, as their conversation turned more intricate, a true inner battle arose. Could he lead not just with innovation, but with empathy, forging an authentic path for himself and his colleagues? His heart raced as he sensed a fracture in the foundation of their conversation. This would not be the last discussion of the day. Stepping into uncharted territory also beckoned him to confront not only board members, but also his own instinct to err on the side of caution. With renewed adrenaline, he stood up, energy surging through him. There was no way he would back down now, not when he could feel an awakening happening not just within him, but potentially also within Janet. Maya is more than just an employee, he asserted, his voice cutting through hesitation like a knife. She embodies change, and I will champion her vision, whether or not it aligns with the board's. What happens next will define us collectively, and I hope you choose to stand with me. The confrontation was still ahead, but Tom sensed a shifting current, a burgeoning strength gathering with allies he hadn't imagined. It would take grit, strategy, and perhaps even vulnerability to capitalize on this momentum. With every step he took toward the boardroom, a new question formed within him. Would he emerge a leader or an outcast? The future of the agency hung in the balance as he grasped for the strength needed to navigate this uncharted terrain. Tom's stride toward the boardroom felt heavier now, infused with purpose, but also dread. The air around him hummed with anticipation, the stakes amplifying as he approached the threshold. He recalled the past meetings, the predictable flow of discussion peppered with corporate jargon that often left him feeling as though they were circling the drain rather than forging ahead. He paused, steadying his breaths. Uncertainty gnawed at him, yet beneath it simmered an unshakable conviction. Innovation warranted risk. It wasn't just about immediate outcomes anymore. It was about seizing control over the agency's narrative. As he entered the boardroom, the atmosphere turned ripe with tension. The directors, seated around the elongated table, regarded him with an array of expressions. Skepticism blended with apprehension. He noticed early on that fear of change often ran deeper than ambition in these discussions. Rather than retreating into the shadows of self-doubt, he decided to illuminate their concerns with the flame of opportunity. "Thank you all for gathering," he began, his voice steady, as he made eye contact with each board member. "Today marks a pivotal juncture for our agency. We stand on the cusp of an industry shift, one that demands adaptation and daring." Chad, the finance director, raised an eyebrow. "Tom, with all due respect, can we afford to gamble with the stability of our projects? Innovation is great, but we have a reputation to uphold." The panic in his tone twisted something deep within Tom. Stability built on complacency felt like a chain around their legs. Does stability mean surrendering to stagnation? Tom shot back, feeling a surge of defiance. "I'm not suggesting we plunge into reckless abandon. I'm advocating for a measured evolution. We must embrace new ideas, and that includes empowering our team members who bring fresh perspectives. Maya is an example of untapped potential. She has ideas that can reshape our strategy and, frankly, save us." The board members squirmed slightly in their seats, exchanging glances that hinted at the division in their sentiments. Among them, Janet's nod of support felt like a lifeline amidst tumult. He caught her eye, and she gave a slight, but undeniable smile. He could feel her resolve building. "Tom, you're advocating for a young talent who hasn't proven herself at this level. What are you basing this on?" Erica, head of operations, questioned, crossing her arms defensively. "On the spirit of innovation she embodies. On the potential I see in her ideas," Tom replied, feeling an unexpected wave of emotion. "She represents what this agency can become if we stop shackling ourselves to past formulas. I'm willing to navigate this path if you're willing to trust me. Trust us." Chad leaned forward, skepticism replaced with contemplation. "So, you're proposing we allow Maya to lead this new initiative? And in doing so, you're throwing your own credibility on the line." "Exactly," Tom affirmed, feeling a surprising surge of resolve course through him. "If I fail, it will be because I did not have the courage to champion change. But if we succeed, it will redefine what we are capable of." An electric silence enveloped the room. The enormity of his words weighed heavy, yet the promise of change lingered tantalizingly in the air. For the first time, he sensed the delicate power shift. Doubt began to wane, allowing conversation to blossom around possibilities rather than fears. "As a team, we have an opportunity to rethink our trajectories," Janet interjected, her voice rising with unexpected authority. Let's engage fully with Maya's vision rather than dismiss it out of fear. What if she helps cement our legacy as leaders in this field? As the conversation unraveled, Tom's heart raced. This was no ordinary meeting. They were stepping into new territory, testing the waters of collaboration in its rawest form. Ideas flowed, opinions debated, the initial tension slowly morphing into a fertile ground for innovation. But even amid this breakthrough, Tom felt a gnawing hesitation. Had he truly deciphered the complexities of the board's ethos? The room was still polarized, the echoes of resistance lurking in the background. As discussions ebbed and flowed, one notion sprang forth, a thought that would shape his trajectory more than any initiative ever could. What if his journey as a leader was intertwined with the leaders he chose to nurture? The thought hung before him, laden with significance. Leading was not merely about forging paths forward, it was about discovering strength through others. As the meeting concluded, and he stepped back into the hall, a single question formed in his mind. Was he prepared to confront not just the corporate hierarchy, but also the responsibility of mentoring changemakers within it? The echo of footsteps down the corridor was suddenly overshadowed by an even more daunting thought. Could this transformation redefine who he would become as both a leader and a man? Tom exited the boardroom, still feeling the heat of the discussions that had just unfolded. The company's future sat heavier than ever on his shoulders, and yet an intoxicating thrill pulsed through him. The outcome had felt different, ushered in by a brimming possibility he had not allowed himself to see before. But as he made his way through the bustling office, doubts began to creep in like shadows at dusk. Was he truly ready to raise his voice and champion change? The realization sparked a new wave of panic. The board's tentative acceptance was just the beginning. Real transformation required more than mere dialogue. It would demand relentless effort and authentic engagement from him as both a supervisor and a mentor. Lost in thought, Tom nearly collided with Maya as she hurried past, her eyes alight with something akin to excitement. She stopped short, breathless, and smiled. "Did you really do it? Did you convince them?" He hesitated, grappling with his mixed emotions. "I think so, but it's just a step. We need to develop your ideas further and present them in a way that resonates with the board." Her enthusiasm dimmed slightly. "I understand. But what if they push back again? What if I'm not ready?" Her vulnerability struck him. In that instant, Tom recognized the weight of his new role. It would not only be about advocating for innovation, but also nurturing the very individuals who had been deemed too inexperienced, too raw. "Maya," he said, softening his tone. "I mentioned you in there for a reason. Your ideas deserve to be explored. I wouldn't have spoken up if I didn't believe in you." She nodded, drawing a deep breath. "Okay, I'll work on my presentation." As she walked away, Tom felt a sense of urgency swell within him. Was he truly ready to commit to empowering Maya, and others like her, to find their voices? He had a vision of a new collaborative culture, but vision alone was not enough to shift the company's momentum. That evening, he found himself tucked away in the comfort of his favorite cafe, the hum of conversations fading into a background score as he set up his laptop. He opened a new document, the blank screen glaring back at him. Ideas began to form, questions that needed addressing. How could he guide his team through the storm of resistance? What framework could he design that would foster dialogue rather than defensiveness? Slowly, he began typing. Each word felt like a stone laid on new ground, each sentence strengthening the foundation of his thoughts. This plan was not simply an initiative, it was a commitment to becoming the leader he always aspired to be, a mentor and advocate for growth, courageously embracing the potential within others. In the days that followed, he delivered a series of workshops intended to cultivate an environment of shared ideas and open discussion. He flipped the script, inviting colleagues to present rather than just recite, challenging them to bring their visions to life while reshaping the existing narrative. Each session revealed hidden potential, igniting a spark among those who felt invisible until now. Yet, as the weeks passed, Tom found himself wrestling with a new dilemma. The more he invested in others, the more he sensed the ebbing of his own individuality. The journey to become a facilitator left him questioning, who was he at his core? His identity had intertwined with his role as a nurturer, but was that transformation pulling him away from the ambitious leader he aspired to be? On the brink of another team meeting, doubt slammed into him like a cold wave. Would he lose what made him effective as a leader in the process of uplifting others? The answer, he knew, loomed just within reach, but it would require confrontation, both with himself and with the risk that came from channeling his energy outward. As he stepped into the conference room, surrounded by eager faces ready to discuss their ideas, Tom was left to ponder the most daunting question yet. What sacrifices would leadership require of him, and was he willing to face the transformative cost? Tom settled into his chair at the conference room table, an unease rolling through him like a restless tide. The eager eyes of his team were alight with anticipation, and though he craved to ignite their spirits, the question of his own identity loomed larger than any agenda item. Their enthusiasm fed into his desire to be a creator of change, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he might be losing the core of what drove him. The discussions began lightly, but as each team member shared, layers of creativity unfolded. Maya presented her ideas with newfound confidence, her voice steady as she articulated the vision that had once made her anxious. Tom felt a swell of pride for her growth, and it stirred something deep within him. He knew that facilitating this transformation came with weight that pressed against his own aspirations. "Great insights, everyone," Tom remarked, allowing a smile to break through his intensity. "Let's not shy away from pushing boundaries here. How do we make these ideas actionable?" As the conversation gained momentum, he noticed how the dialogue transcended merely professional boundaries. Ideas sparked connections, bringing to surface not just concepts for the company, but deeper understanding among colleagues. Yet, amidst the synergy, the gnawing sense of identity crisis clawed at him. Who was he, if the summit of success meant elevating others above his own ambitions? After the meeting, he sought refuge in solitude, pacing the hallway as he allowed his thoughts to marinate. Could a leader truly flourish while lifting others? Or was he destined to become an echo of their brilliance, fading into the background? As he navigated the remnants of his internal struggle, one voice cut through, the voice of his mentor reminding him that leadership isn't about standing in the spotlight, but rather illuminating the path for others. Perhaps empowerment didn't mean forfeiting his own aspirations. Rather, it was intertwined with them, challenging him to evolve. Determined to regain balance, Tom devised a plan. He scheduled a one-on-one meeting with Maya, aiming to foster not just her growth, but to recalibrate his leadership approach. Armed with a mentor's heart, he knew this interaction could provide clarity. When she entered his office, her nervous energy barely concealed behind her spirited demeanor. "Thank you for this opportunity," she began, almost audibly biting her nails as she spoke. "Of course," Tom said, leaning forward, genuinely interested. "I want to know how you feel about the direction we're headed. Are you comfortable presenting your ideas to the board in a few weeks?" Maya's initial burst of confidence began to ebb. "I am, but what if I let you down? You're championing me. What if I can't meet expectations?" In her vulnerability, Tom found an unexpected truth. Her fear mirrored his own, the weight of expectation stretching thin the air between their roles. He realized the significance of transparent leadership was not merely in urging others onward, but also in embracing their fears as shared experiences. "Maya," he said softly, "it's essential to recognize that mistakes are part of growth. I don't expect perfection. I expect honesty and passion. Let's build this together." As they dissected the elements of her presentation, they began to unearth concerns, insecurities, and potential failures. Each revelation sculpted a collaborative bond that felt distinctly mutual. It wasn't just about lifting Maya. It was a reminder of his own foray into vulnerability and growth. No longer did he feel afraid of blurring lines. Now, he felt the intertwining roots of mentor and mentee growing side by side. When the meeting ended, he watched as Maya left his office, her posture more erect, confidence visibly blossoming. He couldn't ignore the flicker of excitement coursing through him, a determination to forge ahead on the path he once feared. Perhaps leadership wasn't solitary after all. It drew energy from interdependent relationships, from shared journeys. Yet the deeper questions still loomed. Could he assert himself without dimming the lights of those he sought to empower? As he stood there contemplating, one conversation lingered in his mind: the necessity of confrontation, both with himself and the evolving role he would play in the company's future. With a resolve strengthened by new insights, Tom's next challenge awaited. What confrontation would he initiate to define not just his leadership style, but the company's direction? And how would he do it without losing himself in the process? Tom paced the brightly lit corridor, mentally rehearsing the upcoming leadership retreat. Participants would include not just executives, but also lower-tier employees. This retreat felt monumental in more ways than one. It represented an opportunity to not only shape the company's future, but also to redefine his own leadership identity. Smoothing his shirt, Tom felt an amalgam of excitement and anxiety knot in his stomach. The clock ticked insistently as he settled into his office, reviewing the agenda once more. The focus would be on open communication, an unequivocal theme that had emerged from his discussions with Maya and the team. What if vulnerability could become the cornerstone of their strategy? He wondered how embracing transparency would unravel layers of hesitation among his team. Was he ready to be the one to initiate this shift, or was he still trapped in the cycle of self-doubt? A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. It was Maya again, her expression cautious but hopeful. "I wanted to discuss the retreat," she began, glancing at the floor. "I'm nervous about what I should contribute. It feels daunting." Tom studied her, recalling his own trepidations. "I think this is a chance for all of us to communicate honestly," he replied, "to explore our strengths and concerns openly. Why don't we lead a session that focuses on experiential sharing? Highlight that no one is above anyone else in this room." Maya's eyes brightened. That kind of honesty could help bridge gaps. "Would you co-lead with me?" The offer surprised him. Would taking that collaborative step enhance their working relationship, or might it reveal weaknesses? A common fear lurked just beneath the surface, the vulnerability of both mentor and mentee. This thought sparked an internal battle. Could he step back and allow Maya to shine even more? Wouldn't it mean relinquishing his control? "Absolutely," he agreed, the affirmation strengthening his resolve. The next few days unfolded like a whirlwind. Each meeting was charged with anticipation. They outlined topics, engaging the team with questions centered on their fears and aspirations. Tom encouraged everyone, including himself, to share personal experiences and leadership challenges. With every interaction, something deeper began to surface. A collective wave of anxiety and aspiration coalescing into unexpected strength. During one planning session, Tom caught a glimpse of his evolving self. As Maya expressed frustration about her presentation style, he interjected, "Maya, think of this not as your one chance to present, but as a conversation with the board. You are their equal, and your ideas matter." Her hesitation faded, and he felt a rush of empowerment. It was empowering, yes, but it also made him confront his own fears. Could he truly empower others without losing sight of his own path? As the retreat day arrived, the energy was palpable. The venue felt open and intimate, decorated with small round tables encouraging dialogue. The team arrived cautiously, each person navigating their own uncertainties. Tom opened with a transparent admission. "I've stood where you are now, paralyzed by expectations, afraid of being seen as incapable. This space today is not about authority, it's about sharing." Maya spoke next, her voice steady as she echoed Tom's sentiments. "We're here to learn from each other. I'm excited to hear your stories." As the exchanges began, the room transformed. Eyes brightened and voices grew louder, confident as they shared tales of triumph and failure. Those moments triggered a realization in Tom. Power does not diminish when dispersed. It flourishes, creating an ecosystem where creativity thrives. Yet amidst the reassurance, one question remained. How would he act on this newfound clarity once the retreat ended? The counting of heads, the urgency of moments, all pointed toward a further evolution of his leadership approach. The path was clear yet daunting. Just as he was emerging as a transformative leader, he also stood at the brink of confronting the shadows of his self-doubt. As participants moved toward one another, exchanging business cards and promises of collaboration, Tom felt a pull toward authenticity that could no longer be ignored. What steps would he take to maintain this transparency in the face of corporate pressures? Would he have the fortitude to confront the harsh expectations awaiting him back in the office? The moment had arrived to face not just his team, but his own apprehensions, ignited by sparks of change that refused to be quelled. As the retreat came to a close, Tom watched his team engage in animated discussions, each conversation unfolding a new layer of honesty. Laughter echoed as stories of failures and unexpected triumphs wove together a narrative of shared experience. He felt a swell of pride. They were becoming something collectively more vibrant than he had imagined. Yet beneath the euphoria, a nagging discomfort lingered. Back in the office the following Monday, the familiar hum of productivity greeted him like a shrill alarm. The weight of expectation pressed down, and the vibrant glow of the retreat dimmed beneath the harsh fluorescent lights. How would he translate that authenticity from the retreat into the rigid dynamics of corporate life? Tom took a deep breath, confronting the stark contrast. His recent bold declarations echoed hollow against the clattering keyboards and ringing phones. As he walked to his office, he spotted James from marketing, his face etched with worry over a project deadline. Tom remembered the connection he felt with his team during the retreat and how speaking openly had demystified barriers. "James," he called out, making a snap decision to practice what he had preached. The younger man paused, wary but intrigued. "Can we sit for a moment?" Tom gestured to a nearby conference room. A flicker of surprise crossed James's face, but he nodded slowly and followed him inside. "Listen, I know last week was a jump from our usual way of doing things," Tom started, his heart racing. "What's been bothering you since the retreat?" He expected to feel exposed, but instead found strength in vulnerability. His openness invited James to share freely. "The timeline for this project is impossible. I feel like I'm letting everyone down," James confessed, rubbing the back of his neck. Tom recognized that familiar pang of anxiety lurking in James's tone, a reflection of his own perpetual self-doubt. "You're not alone, and you're definitely not letting anyone down," Tom reassured him. "In fact, how about we brainstorm together? I'm here to help." As they conversed, Tom realized he was no longer restraining himself with predetermined metrics of success. Instead, he embraced the dialogue, offering support rather than solutions. This subtle shift marked a distinct evolution in his leadership approach. He could contribute without feeling the need to control. It felt unshackling, turning the conversation into a collaborative puzzle rather than a power struggle. But doubts crept in. Would this openness truly work beyond these walls? There'd been skepticism from higher management. Would they view this shift as weakness? Tom fought the impulse to retreat into a safe, authoritative stance. The day pressed on, and as he met with other team members, he made the conscious choice to lead with transparency. Each conversation revealed hidden tensions, unvoiced frustrations, and aspirations that could be galvanizing forces within the team. Yet with each moment of success came the stark reminder. Not everyone viewed this approach positively. The board's expectations loomed, and some longer-tenured colleagues seemed resistant to the evolving landscape of their workplace culture. Tom could feel their scrutiny. Unexpectedly, he found himself face-to-face with Carla, the VP of Operations. "What's with this new open-door policy?" she questioned, arms crossed defensively. "It's not exactly the corporate way." Tom's heartbeat quickened. The challenge lay before him: how to stand firm amid opposing views without alienating those who wielded power. "I believe it fosters greater collaboration and innovation," he replied, channeling the energy from the retreat. "But I also recognize that change can be daunting." Carla's skeptical gaze remained fixed on him, an unyielding fortress of conventionality. He noted her stance. This was the very essence of leadership, confronting challenges head-on. Yet the conflict sparked an undercurrent of anxiety. Would his commitment to transparency fracture established loyalty within his ranks? As Tom returned to his office, he sat at his desk, wrestling with the tension between his evolving ethos and traditional expectations. The retreat had ignited something he could no longer ignore. This journey of transformation was just beginning, and the road ahead was strewn with resistance and revelation. He kept returning to that original question. Could he maintain authenticity amidst adversity? The retreat had illuminated a path, but the practical implications were still shadowed in uncertainty. With determination, Tom grabbed a pen. A strategy began to take shape, a plan to champion this new communication style further within the organization, albeit cautiously. There was a risk, no doubt, but a new resolve simmered in his chest. In this moment of reflection, an image emerged. A small gathering of critical voices, perhaps his next team meeting, where he could present his ideas on fostering openness and genuine collaboration. Would the team rally behind this transformation, or would they resist, fortified by entrenched perspectives? The time had come to face this pivotal moment head-on, ready to engage with those who doubted him in a way that would either break him or elevate him further along the path of authentic leadership. As the morning wore on, the atmosphere in Tom's office grew heavier, thick with the tension of unspoken doubts and unrecognized potential. He could feel the walls closing in, a stark reminder that each moment he spent in office solitude was another second spent in a culture of silence. He needed to confront his team, but the disparity between his new ideals and the oppressive atmosphere felt increasingly daunting. He closed his eyes, blocking out the noise of ringing phones and chatter. The whispers from the retreat lingered, urging him to push beyond self-doubt. What would it take for this shift to resonate? One voice at a time, he decided. His plan formed. He would initiate small, focused discussions to nurture the spirit of transparency. But the challenge lay in convincing not only his immediate team, but also the skeptics among the higher-ups. Tom grabbed his notebook filled with ideas and sketches of what these discussions might look like. Approaching Carla again, opening lines of communication with her seemed crucial, though it frightened him. She was adept at reading people. Her expertise lay in managing the logistics and the corporate machinery. He needed to approach her without the trepidation that had stifled him before. "Carla!" he called out as he spotted her at the coffee station. She turned, a frown settling on her brow. "Do you have a moment?" "Make it quick," she responded, leaning against the counter, arms crossed again. "Here's my idea," he pressed, meeting her eyes. "I think we could start incorporating these open discussions at our weekly meetings, not just for our team, but department-wide." He inhaled, sharing his vision where collaboration intertwined with creativity. "I believe allowing everyone to discuss their challenges and successes openly could boost morale and ultimately productivity." For a moment, Carla's gaze hardened, as if assessing the feasibility of his proposal. She finally nodded, though her posture reflected skepticism. "That's a lofty ambition, Tom. But let's not forget, this is a business, not a therapy session." "True, and I'm not suggesting it goes that far," he interjected quickly, willing himself to remain steady. "But we owe it to the team to acknowledge their struggles. When they feel validated, they contribute more effectively. We could incorporate metrics to show growth." "What metrics?" The challenge in her tone remained sharp. Engagement surveys, project completion rates, just to name a few. If they feel supported, numbers should reflect that, right? With a piercing look, she continued to evaluate him. Tom grappled with the uncertainty of her approval, but felt a surge of courage coursing through him. He had fought hard against inertia, and here he was, advocating for empowerment in the workplace. Let's see how this unfolds at the next meeting. She relented finally, her skepticism still evident. But if it starts affecting output, I'll hold you accountable. Are we clear? Understood, Tom agreed, a mix of relief and unease washing over him. As he returned to his office, a challenging reality began to settle into his gut. Changing a culture was not a sprint. It was a marathon. With every step forward, he risked criticism as well as the potential for disruption. Would others join him, or would he find himself navigating uncharted waters alone? That afternoon, he gathered his team for an impromptu meeting. He could feel the weight of their eyes as he presented the idea of an open forum, asking for their thoughts and potential issues. The room fell silent. Doubts lingered in the air, a palpable resistance. Then, Sarah from HR broke the silence. What about those who fear vulnerability? Not everyone is comfortable sharing. Her statement struck an unexpected chord in Tom's heart. It opened a floodgate of potential barriers he hadn't yet considered. That's a valid point, he replied, feeling the fissures of uncertainty split even further in his resolve. This journey to openness hinges on trust. It may take time, but aren't we willing to try? The room remained a canvas of mixed reactions, and doubt remained etched on many faces. In this moment, Tom understood that authenticity in leadership was a delicate balance between courage and receptivity. Encouraging openness could empower, but it could also expose. With the meeting drawing to a close, Tom left with the knowledge that his commitment to authenticity would continue to be tested. As he contemplated the next steps, he realized the venture wasn't merely about essentials or metrics. It was about recognizing the human element in the corporate equation, igniting a culture of fearless collaboration. He sat in his office, a flicker of determination igniting within him. The pressure of change was palpable around him, yet so was a wave of revelation. Knowing that true transformation begins within, he understood he needed to rally support without losing himself in that effort. Would he have the courage to embrace this evolving narrative when voices of dissent echoed back? The next meeting would not just be a discussion. It was a stepping stone toward empowerment, both personally and professionally. But could he truly inspire this transformation across all levels of the organization? Or would he meet resistance that would steer him off course? Tom Callahan faced the boardroom with a newfound determination, a palpable shift in his demeanor. The atmosphere buzzed with unease, but he refused to allow doubt to dictate his performance. As he prepared to present the ideas generated from the recent retreat, he felt a sense of connection with Maya and the team, a camaraderie forged in vulnerability that anchored him against the looming expectations. Today, I want to address the future of our agency, and to do so, we need to embrace change, Tom began, his voice steady, commanding attention. He laid out the principles they had discussed, the emphasis on collaboration, creativity, and credibility. He drew inspiration from Maya's innovative storytelling, weaving her narrative into their strategy for the upcoming campaign. It was a bold move, one that hinted at an impending transformation. The board members listened skeptically, a few exchanging furtive glances. The tension between Tom and the entrenched traditionalists pulsated in the air. As he pressed on, articulating the urgency for cultural evolution, he could feel the weight of every past decision he had made regarding leadership. Those moments where he had prioritized authority over empathy bore down heavily on him. As he reached the crux of his presentation, he urged the board to consider the metrics that would validate this new collaborative approach. If we empower every member of our team, we not only enhance morale, but drive measurable results. It's time to refresh what success looks like. A moment of silence clung to the air, and then Janet, the chief marketing officer, broke the spell. Tom, while your intentions are commendable, it seems reckless to gamble on a junior employee taking the lead. The stakes are too high. Tom felt a familiar prickle of self-doubt, yet he held his ground, remembering how much he had overlooked in the past. Janet, I understand your concerns, but stagnation will cost us more than taking calculated risks. With Maya's insights, our work will resonate more deeply within our target market. What if it fails? Chad pressed, his brows knitted. We're known for our results, Tom. What will our clients think if we shift focus? Tom's heart raced, fighting off the urge to retreat into familiar arguments. What if we succeed? He countered, feeling conviction spark within him. This isn't just about the next project. It's about redefining our legacy, positioning ourselves as forward thinkers who value diverse perspectives. And that legacy depends on shaping leaders like Maya. When he finished, the silence was profound. Every gaze in the room focused on him, and with each tick of the clock, the tension thickened. Yet, he felt lighter somehow, perhaps in daring to share the responsibility of leadership. He had confronted the ghosts of his decisions, integrating empathy into his vision. In the days that followed, breakthroughs began to blossom. Maya's campaign ideas garnered attention, support swelling from colleagues who had once doubted her. The board conducted preliminary discussions around the fresh approach, teetering on a tipping point. Tom stepped outside of his own fears, uniting aspiration with authenticity. This period of transition, he realized, wasn't without its challenges. Initiatives to encourage feedback from all levels revealed friction with some of his senior administrators. They didn't transition easily from comfort zones. It required every ounce of awareness he'd gained to reflect patience and vulnerability as tensions ebbed and flowed. Conversations deepened and direction shifted. Yet the most significant transformation came from within Tom himself. He demonstrated that leadership was multi-layered, expanding beyond traditional structures. True leadership involves strengthening those around him and rising together through trust and understanding. Then came the moment he'd both anticipated and feared, the official launch of Maya's campaign. They gathered in the conference room, projecting positive energy as she presented, her confidence radiating from every word. The board responded favorably, nodding in agreement as she articulated her vision with clarity and passion. For Tom, witnessing her take the lead was validation, a true testament to the power of shifting paradigms. As the meeting concluded, applause erupted. The realization hit him like a wave of relief and pride. By championing Maya, not only had he paved a road for her, but also for himself. He understood that leadership didn't throttle individuality. It engaged others in ways he had never fully comprehended before. Standing there, he felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment, the recognition that he had changed fundamentally, embracing empathy as the cornerstone of his leadership. He had faced his fears, and in doing so, had elevated others in profound ways. Reflecting on his journey, Tom knew they were just beginning to scratch the surface of their potential as an agency. With renewed vision and confidence, he resolved not to revert to old habits, but to continue fostering a culture of collaboration, creativity, and empowerment. It was in that moment of triumph he realized the true achievement, a clear identity as a transformative leader rooted in compassion, guiding others to find their voices alongside his. Now, dear audience, this is your moment to support our journey. You need to subscribe now to the channel to witness more inspiring stories of transformation like Tom's. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and ensure you catch our exclusive upcoming content. Comment below with your thoughts and theories on this incredible conclusion. And don't wait. Even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this empowering conclusion. Your support makes a difference.